Hey there, everyone. This is your host, Brandy J. Voices of Courage, Walk the Talk. I have with me today Q from the Talking to Q radio show. Finally have him on here. It's been some time, but I said I gotta have him on. And then you have me on yours, and that was awesome, by the way. How you doing?
And I'm doing great. I appreciate you having me on. It's like you say, a long time coming.
Yeah, most definitely. Long time coming and so much going on.
Yeah,
Um, So, Q, before we go into the what's the stuff that's going on, can you tell the listeners what show you have and what kind of content do you have on your show?
absolutely. Well, the name of my show is the Talk to Q Radio Show. Uh, the tagline is "No experts, just opinions."
Like,
And the show is we talk primarily about relationships, but we also get into current events, politics, sports, gossip, reality TV, and more. The the purpose of this show is to give people a platform to come on and speak their mind. Okay, so the show is not about me. That's why it's called Talk to Q instead of Listen to Q. So people are able to call into the virtual studio, so to speak, and I throw out the questions. They give me their responses. Anybody can participate, do it live. There's a chat room. We have a really good time. And we talk about a lot of things that mainstream media and news refuse to talk about.
I like that. I like that. I'm definitely. I don't know if you know me. I'm all over the place. I have so many shows going on, but I want to get more of a like your schedule so I can because I want to be able to come into your chats and all that stuff too.
Absolutely. Love to have you.
Come over there and harass y'all. But yeah. So today was a big day.
Yes.
Did you watch it with like today at all when it went down?
And when someone texted me and told me that the verdict was in, then I
Mm-hmm.
turned on my television. And so I started paying attention at that point a lot more closely.
Mm-hmm.
I've been, seeing news and notes here and there, but I wasn't watching it live all day. It wasn't until someone said the verdict was in. So probably about 30, 45 minutes before they read the verdict, is when I turned it on.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't at all. I just kind of just let my mind just be. So when you look when you how did that courtroom when that those words came out what was that like? Did everybody just kind of or
Well, the camera, I was watching CNN at the time, and the camera was focused on the defendant, Derek Chauvin, and he really didn't react to the first guilty verdict that was read. I think the first charge that they read was for was one of the murder charges, like third degree, second degree unintentional murder, or something like that. And when they said guilty, he really didn't respond. It looked like he was just sitting there watching television. And then so they went through the second count and they said guilty. And I was expecting to see a reaction of, okay, I'm in trouble. But he never really gave that type of response. He just seemed like he was kind of cold and dead on the inside.
hmm,
But as far as the rest of the courtroom, they didn't really show the reaction because they were focused on him, at least on the channel that I was watching. So I don't know how everyone else reacted.
yeah. That I guess that would be important, part of it. And he is a part of this is happening because of him to see
Yeah,
what he's feeling like. No telling what's in his head. You never know.
right, right. Now they did show the crowd's reaction outside, and I mean the celebrations that went on. I mean
Mm,
it was spectacular. It was something to
yeah.
see, and
Yeah.
so there were a lot of people who seemed like they were very satisfied with the verdict outside of
Yeah.
the courthouse.
Yeah. Most definitely. I could say that out of a lot of different trials and stuff we've seen, like this one right here, if they all went like this, that's, truth, and justice. That's how it should be done. So,
Yeah, and that's where I don't think people understand. And when I say people, I mainly mean white people. A lot of them are probably confused at why so many people of color are celebrating. And it's because this doesn't happen very often. I
mm,
think Reverend Al Sharpton said this is the first cop to ever be convicted of a felony in the state of Minnesota,
Mm.
And so, I mean, these things don't happen very often. We're so used to seeing the cops being, not even being charged, and if
Right.
they are charged, being acquitted, and things of that nature. So I just can't understand how you can get someone to understand if they're not willing to walk in your shoes.
Exactly. Exactly. I was just doing a little live a minute ago, and I was trying to like explain to us, like to the ones that are trying to understand.
Hmm.
It's like kind of just put yourself in someone else's shoes for a moment. You know what I mean? Like there are shoes, and just really go there.
Yeah,
And I promise you, you what I, I don't understand. We're all human beings. We just
hmm,
happen to be, we have different experiences and stuff. But I just don't understand how anyone can't humanize or empathize the stuff that we see clearly. I don't really think it takes that much for you to see it and empathize with it. I think it's willingly like ignorant sometimes. Like you put on
yeah,
this blinder and you just want to walk around like I didn't get it. You know what I
yeah,
mean? 'Cause I can
and
see
some,
them and I can understand. I can empathize on any level with any race or
yeah.
whatever. So why is it so hard? Why is it this so hard to get through?
It's how we're conditioned. I mean, society looks at George. A lot of people in society look at George Floyd as a criminal. So therefore, because he's a criminal, they feel like he should not really have any type of rights whatsoever. But then you will have a situation where, um, like then what was that in Kenosha, Wisconsin, where
Yeah,
Rittenhouse, or the little boy,
Kyle.
he, yeah, Cal
Yeah,
he killed somebody, and everyone
yeah,
says, oh well, he's a patriot or
right.
he's
A hero and no,
yeah. I mean, so it's all depends on how of what you want to see.
right.
And time again, we see a lot of mass shooters who are white get arrested without incident.
Mhm.
They'll have a gun in their hand and they'll
Yeah,
still get arrested with no problem. Whereas a black person won't even have a weapon and get shot. Then everyone's like, oh, well, he robbed that liquor store. Well, it doesn't matter. This person shot 11 people in a movie theater, you
exactly.
know?
They get
Yeah,
quiet when that shit comes up.
right, right. Or he kills people in a church and you take them to Burger King. And
Right, get some
so,
water. You thirsty?
yeah. So it's
Yeah,
all about how we're conditioned. Society wants us to believe that, not necessarily that I'm not going to say that they go to the extreme that all black people are bad, but that a certain type of black person is bad and
yeah,
therefore that person is a threat. But
yeah.
I don't know. Some people will argue that some think all black people are bad. So I don't know.
Yeah, which is crazy to me because I don't like to depict and like go down, what I mean, like these ugly, ugly roads, but or even go that back and forth thing because it doesn't help with the solution.
Yeah.
But sometimes I think like, okay, you're saying rioters and we're this and we're that. Like, come on, when have you really seen that? And when you think about history, did you forget Wall Street? Did you forget, you know what I mean? The horrible things that were done, the hangings and
Yes.
the parades and stuff that were made of the mockery of the death. So I mean, I'm like, am I in a Twilight Zone here or something, or do you not remember any of this?
Right, right. And people want to be selective about those type of things. Like they want us to forget slavery. They want us to forget some of the atrocities that happened back in the 60s during the civil rights era. But, you can't forget 9/11.
Right.
And then don't get me wrong, and that's a tragedy, but you have to remember all tragedies. You can't pick and choose which tragedies you want to believe.
Exactly.
So I mean, yes, 9/11 is something that was very unfortunate. A lot of people lost their lives, but so did the people on Black Wall Street. So
Yeah.
did the people in Rosewood. And I mean, those are things people have to remember.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. Yeah, it's the only way we're gonna get to a place of like healing and to come together because it's really up to the people. We keep looking towards the government, the same people that sit back and just kind of start the shit. The media they mix it all up and then
Yeah,
everybody just acts a fool.
they do, they do,
Hmm.
and I think that's why it's important to have shows like this one where people are allowed to speak things that are really going on as opposed to the things that we see on mainstream TV, which is,
Yeah,
a lot of it's prepared or
yeah,
carefully planned and they know what they're doing.
Yeah, I don't even understand. I don't even watch the news. I don't understand people that, oh, I seen it on the news. I'm like, well, no wonder why you don't know anything. It's so true. I don't get it. I don't get why people always, oh, must my phone. Sorry. I don't know why they say that. Um, I wanted to ask you, coming from like a black man. Um,
Mhm.
I know earlier I came across this father that kind of broke down, and he has these two older well his they're growing up now. They're both I think about to enter into football or basketball, and then he started to like sit back and look at them, and he started crying because he started to think like, do I need to cut my older ones? Do I need to cut his dreadlocks? So he started thinking about the young man not that long ago that was murdered, and then he was just like really kind of like emotional because he was like, these are the things that's going through my head right now because so am I doing what I need to do to not get my son killed? Am I setting them up to be killed? And I just
Mhm.
I empathize with that so much because you don't know it, and it's like that's a reasonable thought or a feeling for a parent to think. And I want to ask you, how do you like feel about that?
That's a tough one, and it's very tough because for parents, your primary goal is to make sure that your kids are productive and that they're protected. Okay, and that's the primary goal of a parent, and that involves some tough decisions. Now, you basically have two choices. You can allow the kids to do things that may appeal to, black culture, but of course, you know what comes with that. They're going to be stereotyped and things of that nature. Or you can restrict that, and hopefully that will allow your kid to, what a lot of people say, blend in, so to speak.
Mhm.
And it's a thin line, but I look at it like this. We've seen tons of examples of people who quote unquote look the part, but
Yeah.
still have things happen to them. They're still discriminated against. They still experience racism. So I don't know if it really matters. Will one experience more than the other? It's possible. When I was growing up, my dad was very tough on me as far as the type of hairstyle I had. But he said that, once you make your own money, get a job, make your own money, you can get your hair cut however you want. But he says, as long as I'm paying for it, then I decide what kind of haircut you had, which was a low haircut. It's kind of what I had growing up. And I guess that may have been his way of protecting me to keep me from looking like, some of the guys down the street, because if I start to look like everyone else, then people might treat me like everyone else. I don't know his logic behind it. So, but like I said, it's a tough decision because you don't want to deny someone of something that they may feel is culturally appropriate. But by the same token, it sure is scary to know
Yeah.
how people are looking at them out there and
Yeah.
thinking that they're a bad person when they're not.
Yeah. Most definitely. And yeah, it's like you think we're here 2021 and this is where we're at.
Yeah.
I'm like, what would people back then like say right now? Like I wonder. I know they'd have some stuff to say. It'd be interesting.
Yeah. It just makes me wonder what happened prior to, like when I was growing up. I'm a '70s baby, so a majority of my teens were spent in the '80s. And when I
Okay.
was growing up in the '80s, and then when I was in my 20s in the '90s, I didn't really, and I'm in Mississippi, so I'm not like I'm somewhere that's really culturally diverse. I didn't really experience a lot of things that some of these people appear to be experiencing today. I didn't really see a lot of the hatred that's going on now, and that was before the internet. Okay,
Yeah.
now that we have the internet, everything gets filmed. Camera phones. We have access to see all of this stuff, so it just makes you wonder how bad things were back when we didn't have access to see them. How many George Floyds,
Right.
died in the '80s and the '90s that you know, that would just kind of passed off as a regular,
Yeah.
mishap or something during an arrest because we didn't have access to see it. And so it makes me wonder just how bad things were around me when I was growing up and I just didn't know about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been thinking that too, and how they try to minimize or cover up stuff now or censor. I'm starting to think that there was a whole lot, and we just didn't weren't aware of it. So
Yeah,
it's like we thinking it's like it's changed or it's worse, and it's kind of like people say it's always been this way. Just now that you
yeah.
see it.
Yes, if anything, it may have been worse prior to camera
Yeah,
phones.
yeah,
May have been much worse, and we'll just never know.
yeah. Most definitely. That's very interesting. Look on that. But the part that I just really, I'm not gonna say. I guess I can say struggle with, because sometimes I have my moments where I just want to cry, and not just because of my own, because I'm trying to get him to understand. You know what I mean? He should be able just to focus on teenage stuff.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And being a kid, because having a childhood is important.
Yes.
But the kids, I just don't think that that's in people's heads when these things are going on. Like the focus point, like even white people, black people, all of us. Like while this is all going on, I always think, look to the left, to the right, in front of you, wherever they are. Your children. Is this what you want them to grow? You want to keep teaching them this hate, possibly get them, you know what I mean, killed themselves, or
Yeah.
have them be the mass destruction of people, like how they go shooting up churches and stuff. That's your love for your kid. You want them to be a murderer. That's basically what is happening, but it's passed down,
Yeah.
and it's like, I think it takes, I don't know where you stand and you can tell me, but I think it's going to take all of us. Like we can't do it by ourselves, but we still need to stand up for ourselves. I think that's something we need to do. But we got to do this, white, black, all of us, because we're all. If we keep saying we're all human beings, like they keep saying all lives, well, every time we say black lives, I'm just like, well, if we don't matter, 2 plus 2 is 4, so it can't be all lives if we don't matter. So, but if that's the case, then it's going to take all of us to get through this. Separation has been the problem already, right? So, what do you think about that?
Yeah. It will take all of us. It's going to take white people getting on board
Yeah.
just as much as it does, black people. And I think the best place for it to start is government.
Mhm.
Okay. I think that if you have people in government who are willing to try to make things better, then everything else would kind of filter down.
Yeah.
And it starts to me with local government. A lot of people want to make a big deal about the folks in the White House. And don't get me wrong, that's important. I vote in every election, okay, local or federal. And the White House is important, but they kind of affect, maybe your money as far as taxes and things of that nature. But your local government is responsible for your kids' school, what goes on
Yeah.
with your kids' school. They're responsible for the crime in your area, the infrastructure, and things of that nature. That election is more important.
Yep.
If you get those people right, then I think it will fix everything else. If you get people who are willing to make schools better, then better education equals better opportunity. All
Yeah.
right, that's going to cut back on kids on the street. You're going to cut back on crime because people
Yeah.
will have the ability to earn a living and things of that nature, and then fix the infrastructure. Get rid of these abandoned buildings that are just sitting around and just housing place for drugs or stuff of nefarious nature, things of that. And so I think if we get the politicians on board locally and start there, then things would kind of maybe trickle down and hopefully fix some of the problems that we have. Because as long as these kids don't have any type of hope,
Yeah.
then it's really going to be bad. And the best way to give someone hope is to educate them.
Bingo. So true. So true. So what do you think about like for instance, speaking about, like changing our view and focusing in like on the government and stuff, which takes education and all that, about making sure that we empower our kids with that, with those tools. Like 11th or 12th grade, you should be preparing them because they're going to be turning to 18. They should be learning at 16 if they're learning how to drive, like how the system works and how to vote. You know what I mean? Because some people at full grown adult capacity are still confused by about what voting truly is. And I think that we need to equip kids with that before they, because they're going to be very much important and needed, in the whole voting.
Absolutely. And when I was growing up, they taught us some of the basic things about voting, as far as, you vote for a president, you vote for a vice president, they serve this many terms and things of that nature. But to me, a lot of the things I learned in school didn't necessarily teach me about life.
Right.
Okay, telling me that we elect a president every 4 years is not telling me why it's important that I participate.
Right.
You're basically just laying out how things work, as far as, you go to the voting booth and you do this. I just think that we need more life lessons being taught in school, especially in high school,
Yeah.
10th, 11th grade. You're preparing people for adulthood. And most of the kids now, especially in the inner cities, they're not ready. They have no idea. I mean, as fortunate the circumstances I've had in my life, I wasn't ready. Okay, I thought that all I had to do was finish high school, go to college, and boom, I'm going to have this career job that's going to pay me enough money for me to live comfortably for the rest of my life. It's not like that. And a lot of kids now, they get out of college, they still can't find jobs.
Right.
Okay, or if they do find a job, it's not a high paying job. You can have a master's degree,
Yeah.
an Olympic gold medal. I
Yep.
mean, you can have all kinds of qualifications, and they still going to pay you $12 an hour.
Yep.
So kids, I don't think aren't prepared properly for adulthood, and that's really a problem. And when I say kids, I guess I really shouldn't say kids. The kids of 20 years ago, because like I finished high school in '89, and like I said, I don't feel like I was properly prepared, or at least have the expectations of what real life was. So imagine the people who graduated in '99 or in
Right.
2009. The people who graduated in '99, 2009, they have kids now who aren't going to have any type of pathway to success because their parents didn't know.
Right.
And if their parents didn't know and still don't know, then how are they going to teach the kids? It
Yep.
just make it that much harder for them.
The cycle keeps. Yeah.
Yeah. And in
And
order to break the cycle and to reach everyone, I feel like schools need to be revamped as far as what they teach.
mm-hmm.
And for those who participate in religious activities, if you go to church or something, the church should be responsible for helping teach that. I mean,
That's what I was saying.
my goodness, you have so many people who go to church, and don't get me wrong, you're getting lessons from the Bible, and a lot of those lessons are great. But it's also an opportunity to teach people about life.
Yeah.
Churches are supposed to build communities. They're supposed to do more than just be spiritual guidance. They're supposed to build communities. And
Preach.
it's not happening these days. People
No.
want you to pay your tithes and make that money, and build on the church so they can have more members and bring in more money.
Right.
The focus is all off. They need to
Yeah.
be
And then just
a,
judge you. Tell you gonna go to hell if you don't get with Jesus and stuff like that.
exactly,
you know.
exactly. You need to be
Yeah.
preparing people for what the real world is.
Yeah. I think with church, I don't know why that light is so shiny or what it's I don't like the lighting, but I just now noticed that. But let me carry on.
It's all right.
Yeah, the church like it has so much um like it could be so influential, it has so much opportunity to really, and I've been baptized like twice. And now,
Hmm.
7 Day Adventist. I don't really go to church that much. Like, and I'm not going to say like I should because who's to say what I'm supposed to? I have a relationship with God, and that's what matters. But I question everything, and I'm a thinker. You know what I mean? And I used to sit there and think. Even not that long ago, I was like, because I was supposed to have a meeting with my pastor one day. I called him up. We talk about some things. You know what I mean? So I'm one of these new age. I was born in '78, so a little bit of '70s and a whole lot of '80s. But I was like looking around. I was like, I want to be no usher. I said, we need to. I know this is tradition and stuff, but I said this isn't getting to the people. I said we need to spice something up. I said I have a better like I had ideas and stuff, and I think that's okay. And I didn't get the opportunity, but I was going to talk to him about like how we could reach people in the community, and because I saw from other people's perspective too why they were like distant from the church.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you have to be able to. People just feel, you know what I mean, like have bad experiences, and I totally get it because I sit back and I watch, and I'm thinking like, okay, you keep talking about sin, and if you don't give Jesus, this that will happen. But how does somebody learn from that? When you tell somebody that doesn't know, and you expect them to want to come to Jesus, well, tell them why, show them why. Like,
Yeah.
you marriage and it's the way. Then have these groups where you take young men, or you know what I mean, and talk to them and teach them about the family and all that stuff. But you don't, and yeah, and I think that's a question that was questionable to me. Like,
Yeah.
what are we doing
And
here?
there's plenty of opportunity to do that. And you can't just keep telling people, well, just pray.
Right.
Okay. You have to do more than pray. Faith without works is dead. All
Amen.
right. And so it takes more than that. And then maybe you have some preachers who feel like, well, if I talk about this subject, then I'm going to offend a certain part of my congregation and then they're not going to come back. And see, people are just worried about the wrong thing. When
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
have that type of gathering every single week, you have an opportunity to teach them certain things.
Yeah.
And it can be very simple. All right. It doesn't have to be, and this is just my personal opinion, it doesn't have to be about God every minute you're in the church.
Right.
Okay, if you want to have your sermon, and that's fine. But take advantage of an opportunity to talk about why an upcoming election is important.
Hmm.
Okay, take an opportunity to talk about plans to help get rid of crime in the neighborhood, or churches are supposed to get people together and go clean up parts of the neighborhood. Get it looking nice, have pride in your environment. I mean, there's so many opportunities when you have that type of gathering
Yeah.
there. And I mean, us as podcasters, we try to take advantage of the potential audience that we have to try to get some type of message out or some type of
Yeah.
point across and things of that nature. So why shouldn't the church do the same? I mean, it's more than just, I mean, you can only tell someone God is love every single week for so long,
Hmm.
before you need to really feel like, hey, I need to tell them something a little different or maybe
Yeah.
add something to go with that.
Yeah, to connect, you know what I mean? Because that's all they see is like, oh, he's talk about that God stuff, you know what I mean? And that's for a
Yeah.
person to think that and say that it's like it's nothing wrong with that, because if you're trying to get them to come to God, then you got to do better. You got to connect with them as a human being, and
Yes.
it's like they try to walk on eggshells, and yeah, like you got to do more than that. Talk
And
about other stuff. There's other things going on in life.
exactly. And I
Yeah.
grew up in I'm Southern Baptist, so I grew up in the hem and hawing type of church. And one of the biggest problems I had as far as church was concerned at an early age, and I don't want to sound like I'm bashing the church because I'm not. I still believe in going to church. But one of the problems I had at an early age is that the sermon didn't necessarily translate to what I was going through today all of the time. Okay. I mean, there were some times where you'll hit on something that actually impacts what you're going through that, particular moment in time. But then there were other times there was a disconnect. And you have some preachers who rush to in 3 days he rose because they're trying to get everybody to shout and all that type of stuff. But then you have others who actually
Mhm.
talk to you and try to give you maybe a parable or something that you can say, you know what, that can apply to my life. And to me, that's what you should be getting out of church.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fine to celebrate and things of that nature, but you also have to teach, and not just teach as far as the history of the Bible, but teach me something that I can apply to my daily life.
Yes, yes. Or you can use or that how that Bible applies to, you know what I mean? Like how they coincide. Because
Hmm.
people look at it as a whole different world. Like that's the Bible. This is the world. You know what I mean? And it's like you make it, if you're trying to make it make sense, show how it fits. And I think that's where they're missing missing they're hit and miss, and it all depends on who's real and who's not. Because I tell people, I like, look, Satan, he was Lucifer, he was God's right hand. I said Satan could be up in here too. So just because you're in a church, don't make everybody holy. Don't mean like
You
everybody
got
like
that
in here
right.
for the right reasons. So
Everybody on their knees ain't praying.
right, I said that devil can he know the Bible better than we do. So let's
Absolutely.
stop playing. So yeah, most definitely. I know there's those types out there, but you'll find that anywhere you go. Somebody, I call him a minion.
Yeah.
you know, most definitely. So as far as from me, where you stand, like if we're just focusing in on the youth, because somebody's got to, we really got to. Uh, say like starting from today, right now, with the verdict and everything, what would you say to not just I'm going to say this first. What would you say to our young because there are so many young black men that are being murdered. And I'm tired
Hmm.
of people not acknowledging it. I know there's some people that want to hold on to we got different, you know what I mean? People like some people just want to hold the narrative of slavery and all that and everybody, but if take away from all that, the still facts that young black men are being murdered at a very alarming rate. And we know why, we see why. I mean, that's why we just got, over, through with this George Floyd thing because of someone that thought that he had the right, you know what I mean, to take somebody's life. And I have a black son. When I see somebody else black son, I see mine. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
what would you say to our young black youth, our young black men right now, as far as like something hopeful you can give them from today going forward?
And well, I think when you say hopeful, that's the key word there. You hope that this is the start of more justice in the criminal justice system. All right. We see too many people that don't look like us get a pass,
Mm-hmm.
not just from their communities, but from sometimes from the media, and even from the last president that we had. You see people get a pass that don't deserve it, and so hopefully this would be something that you can go to a younger kid and say, okay, look, this guy got justice. Okay, it is possible. It has to start somewhere.
Yeah.
You can only hope this is the beginning, and that it can start somewhere, and just let them know that they can need to keep their head up high and be courageous out here in society. It doesn't mean that going forward, no one's ever going to mess with you again, or no cop is ever going to pull you over. We all know that's not the case. But just have some confidence in knowing that for every Derek Chauvin that gets justice and gets convicted, that's going to be one less cop that maybe thinks about messing with you.
True that.
Okay. And so hopefully this can be the start of something of a deterrent to any type of future incidents that may occur.
Yeah. I like that you said that. That was a good answer. I like that. Maybe,
Yeah.
this would be because you can't like hatred. We can't make hatred go away. That's only Jesus. So, whoever can do that. You can't take hate out of somebody's heart.
No.
But maybe, hopefully, they'll see like, okay, I'm not going to get away with this. Let me, you know, not
Yeah.
murder someone cold. It's still
And
crazy
for
to
the
me.
people who just blatantly hate minorities, there's not really much you can do about them.
No.
It's the people who are kind of in between that I have a problem with. The people
Hmm.
who they don't necessarily exhibit racism towards you, but they're unable to put themselves in your shoes because they view you as being different.
Yeah.
I mean, part of the whole problem we have in society in the United States, I mean, we're all over the world, but definitely in the United States, is that if someone's different than us, we just look at them as they're less than
Yeah. No
a lot of
empathy.
times.
Yeah.
None whatsoever.
Yeah.
And it's not just white people. I mean, black people have done that
Yeah.
for a long time with the gay community.
Hmm.
And I've heard time and time again people say, well, if the boy was gay, he should have just said something. No, he was afraid to say something because you and your uncle were making fun of gay people last week, you know,
Right.
and things. And so, I mean, people are going to be different, whether you agree or not. But don't look at them as someone who doesn't need oxygen, someone who doesn't
Right.
bleed,
Or their
someone who
life is
doesn't
less.
need love or
Mm.
whatever. you have to look at them the same. And
Yeah.
when people who aren't necessarily racist, but they're clouded in judgment because of the media or their upbringing or things of that nature, and they look at George Floyd and they say, "Well, he was using drugs, so he deserved to die." See, those are the people I have a problem with. Those are the
Yeah.
people who need to be reached and educated. All
Yeah,
right,
for
just because
sure.
this guy doesn't look like your cracked out nephew,
Right.
or well, I'm sorry, not cracked out. A lot of we'll say heroin.
Mhm.
Since your nephew has an opioid addiction, but you want to try to send him to rehab and save him,
Right.
but you see somebody else on drugs because they don't look like you or they're not related to you,
And
they're a
they deserve
criminal.
to. Yeah, yeah. I never got that. It's like, okay, well, you have, you say he deserved to die because he's on drugs, but it's like you said, your nephew or your mom or somebody is on drugs, and well, how would you feel if that was her or him? But
Exactly.
that's
Exactly.
that ignorance. Like I just can't. I just can't with that right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like I said, and if you don't remind them of them, then it's a problem.
yeah,
And so, and even at certain points, even for the black people who quote unquote try to blend in, it's just a matter of time before they remind you that you're not one of them.
I be telling
It's
them all the
just a
time. I be
matter.
like, you at the end of the day, beginning of the day, you still up to them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I don't know what you're doing over there.
Yeah. And so that's
you
why when it
know.
goes back to the question you asked earlier about if the kid should keep his dreadlocks or not, it's hard to tell a kid not to do that. I mean, you want to encourage them to be you. And
Yeah,
people are supposed to respect you. Now,
yeah,
unfortunately, there are going to be things that come with it. So you have to be prepared for what comes with it.
yeah,
But you shouldn't have to censor your look simply
yeah,
because of what you think people may think of you.
yeah. Because that's when you
I
get
mean,
kids to start like not liking. They don't like themselves. Like I know a lot of people don't.
yeah,
They hate themselves because they're black and they don't think of themselves. And that's the part that kills me. You know what I mean? That people actually think less of themselves because of they look at being black as a curse or something like that, and that's not okay. With me, that you think that you start to really think that it is you.
yeah,
And it's like no, it's not. It's just we have ignorant. We live in a fucked up world. You know what I mean? You're a king, you're a queen. You know what I'm saying? If they hate you that much, it must be for a reason.
I mean, it takes a lot. It's going to take a lot to try to even begin to fix the problem. I think we have to start with, like I said, education.
Hmm.
And if we reach these people at an early enough age and teach them about the consequences of the actions before they actually go through it,
Yeah,
that would be a start because there are a lot of like the kids out here now who are doing the most cutting up, you know, not taking life seriously, petty
yeah,
crimes and things of that nature. People my age are the parents. Okay. And I've always been one to say that my generation dropped the ball. My 70s babies, 60s babies, I feel like we dropped the ball in a lot of areas because we want to still be young. We want to still ball and,
right.
and do all that when we need to be focused on making sure these kids grow up to be productive people.
Yeah,
And that's not the case. So while we sit back and point the finger at kids, you know, a generation younger than us, I mean, we're really pointing at ourselves because we're the ones
hmm,
that raised them, or better
yeah,
yet, did not raise them.
yeah,
And so somewhere it has to be some education to try to get people in line so they can learn how to approach life from a sensible and realistic point of view and not, you know, think that well, let me back up. Let me say this. I think, and this is especially for young boys, and I'm sorry if I'm being a little long winded here, but this is especially for young boys. A male, whether he was a boy or a man, needs to have a purpose. Okay, a man without a purpose is worthless. If you don't have a reason to get out of bed in the morning, you're worthless. I mean, there's nothing out here for you, and it's up to the older generation to instill a purpose into kids.
yeah,
With my mom and my dad, they instilled a work ethic in me. My mom and my dad never missed work. Okay. And if they did, they were like super sick, like almost hospital type sick. They never missed work. Okay. My dad retired after like, I don't know, close to 30 years on his job. I think my mom did about 30 years. She retired, came back, worked some more, retired again. She was like Michael Jordan. She kept coming back, because that's just, it was in her to work. And so that's something they instilled in me. So when I get up in the morning, I have a purpose for that day, whether it's, going on my job and doing this, or if I have a certain task I want to complete, or working with my podcast or whatever. I have a purpose. I have something that drives me. And that's something we have to give these kids who are out here basically just living life from one weekend to the next.
Yeah.
A lot of people have no idea what they're going to do beyond this weekend. They can't forecast. They can't think far enough in advance. So therefore, if you can't forecast, you can't think in advance, you're not saving any money, because everything you have is for the now. Everything you do is for right now. And you're not preparing for your future. And that's why you find people in the same situations they were in at the age of 21. They're in the same situation at the age of 35. How are you going to be 35 and you still don't have anything?
Right.
And so, like I said, I know it's a little long-winded, but I just want to throw that in there, that we have to instill purpose in these kids.
Yeah. Man, I love that you say that, because that's what I'd be trying to make clear, that like through all these things that we're out here doing, and we're missing the ball because we have the youth that we're responsible for. And if we don't do that, then what are we doing? We failed. You know what I mean? It's all for what?
Yeah.
So yeah, you're definitely right. And I really like that you said that, because that's for all ears, young, because there's still some grown men out here that's, what I mean, not even thinking about ownership. You know what I mean? Like owning something.
Yes.
We're supposed to teach kids how to be owners, and not to be, you know what I mean, how they call it, new modern day slave. It's like own some stuff, because that's the only way you're going to secure something for you and your family. And that's so important, because a lot of us are feeling that right now, because we weren't taught it. And no
Yeah.
matter what, we working in this system, you'll have nothing. It'll never be yours.
I mean, when you think back to people like, back in the civil rights era, yeah, my allergies are bothering me. In the civil rights era, people like Fred Hampton, and the things he accomplished before he was 20 years old. All right. And when I think back to people in the 60s, how when you were 20, 21 years old, you had your own place, you made, got married, had a kid. I mean, you were maturing fast. You were maturing fast. And now you have people 35 years old still trying to find themselves.
Right.
At 35, you're halfway dead. I mean, the average life expectancy for a black man is probably what, 68? You're over halfway dead and you ain't found yourself.
Right. It's crazy.
You need to be making decisions, all those bad decisions or whatever you're going to do, get that out of your system in your
Yeah.
20s and prepare yourself for something greater. Don't
Yeah.
wait
Yeah.
until you're a parent. You're trying to find yourself. How in
Right.
the world your kid going to find his or herself if you don't know?
Hmm. Yeah, you over there complaining, telling them about what they doing wrong and right. Like,
Right.
really? But yeah, it's so true. Because even if you didn't get that growing up, you get old enough where you can see around you, and you can start to see like, oh, Mama missed that ball. She dropped that one. Let me get my shit together. You know what I mean? You see it. You know what I mean? You just don't stay in that. Like, I don't get it. Like, now it's time for you. Sorry that you didn't get it when you was younger, but it's time to wake up, because it's around you. So
Yes. Yes. And being black is already a strike against you.
yeah,
Don't make it harder on yourself.
yeah,
Don't make it harder on yourself by not being prepared out here.
yeah.
And there's so many struggles we can overcome if we get out of our own way, you know.
Preach.
And not everything is the white man's fault. Yeah, the system is rigged against us, but it's don't make it harder if somebody's gonna, you know, have a foot race with you and they're gonna get a head start, then don't make it, even more difficult by running backwards. you know?
Right, exactly. And then when you give that narrative so much life, it becomes a reality. You know what I mean? So yeah, I never had that in my head growing up. Like, because I'm black, that was, I just didn't have it. I can have everything I want. I can do what I want. That's always what I had in my head, and that's my parents let me to believe. I was aware, you know what I mean, of what was up, but I knew that that wasn't gonna stop me.
Yeah,
Only I can stop me.
you're right.
So yeah, for sure. Well, I do appreciate you sharing your wisdom and knowledge and stuff. You said some really important things that and then on this, night too, which is so like so many different emotions, it can go different ways, but I hope it affects everyone, white, black, no matter what.
Yes.
Because even though this was George his family, I'm just my hearts are with them and his daughter. So this is amazing. But as a whole, we all should be feeling something from this. It's just not like a black thing. I hope this touches people's heart and makes them want to 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 do something better.
Yeah. I mean, we're
Yeah.
still not 100% out of the woods. They have to sentence him, and you hope that
Mhm.
the sentence, based on the charges, you would like to think he's going to get a good amount of time.
Yeah.
But you're hopeful that with the sentence that he doesn't get out ever.
Yeah. Most definitely. Yeah. But hey, we've gotten this far, so like I said, hope. Yeah, I appreciate you so much for coming on. I enjoyed being on your show, so I knew we'd have a good conversation here too. And I definitely want people to know where to go see you. And so if you can drop your links, and then I'll make sure I put them in the show notes too.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you inviting me on. I'm glad we were able to do this and to have this conversation. And my show can be found at my website is talktoq.com. That's where you can go and find all things T2Q. And you can find me on social media basically by searching for Talk to Q, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. If you search for Talk to Q, I'll pop up. I've been doing this for 10 years and I truly enjoy podcasting. It's something that I hope I can do another 10 years, and just to try to help people have dialogues about things that are important. We have fun on our show. It's not always serious. We have a good time, but the main thing is that we want to get you to think about anything. Because I'll be the first to tell someone, don't take what I say as the gospel, okay? But take what I say, evaluate it, and consider it, and make your own decision.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I like that part. Well, thank you so much again. We must do this again. I'm hoping one day you invite me back on your show because I had a great time.
Absolutely,
Yeah, most
absolutely.
definitely. And
We'll make it happen.
yes, for sure, for sure. And hopefully we can do something different. What I would love to do is do something to where like more people are involved, like, you know, they have more colors, like get a little panel, white, black, you know what I mean? Like really
Yeah,
start that healing to do it instead of talk about it, show people like this can be done.
absolutely.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, thank you once again, Quincy. It's always a pleasure. I'm
All
gonna hop
right.
over here to this other so much. Come on, I just want to do what my thing. I want to do. I want to talk on my microphone and do and drop my stuff. I like talking, but everyone I like talking to myself. Okay? I like talking to the mic. But yes, you enjoy your night, and thank you once again, everybody. This is Brandy J's Voices of Courage and Quincy with Talking to Q Radio, and we'll be back again.